close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. Finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest. Echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the
Good morning, good afternoon and good evening everybody, and welcome to ISRC TV. You join us here at the Temple of Speed. Yesterday we are at Monza for the IMSA series. I am joined today in commentary with Martin Pearson and Isaac Barkley, and I myself, I am Lewis Anderson.
Good evening, Louis. How are we?
I'm very good, thank you. I hope you are well.
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Good.
And looking forward to a great race this evening in the Temple of Speed. It's going to be a classic.
Yeah, absolutely. Got an exciting race today. Plenty of different cars. We've got Ferraris, BMWs. We've got the Le Mans prototypes, Le Mans Prototype 2s. All battling it out for the same piece of circuit, and in the three different classes, only one can prevail in each. So definitely going to be exciting. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a excuse me, a quick load in, whilst we've been loading in. I've had a quick look through the GTE field, and it looks like it's full of Ferraris, which is very fitting for Monza.
Yeah.
Fossey will be happy about that one.
Yes, indeed. The supposed will be incredibly happy. Good to see.
At least they can run around one car.
It's interesting that you say that, actually, because earlier this week I was looking through all the different setup providers through Apex, VRS, PDS. Other setup providers are available, and it looked like throughout consistently that the Lamborghini was running a second to a second and a half faster than the BMWs, but it's the exact opposite from what I'm seeing here. It's actually, it looks like it's roughly a 50-50 split between the Lamborghinis and Ferraris in the GTD category. As we actually see, is that between the BMWs and Lamborghinis, as we see Malo Boulier in a BMW taking provisional pole position here in qualifying, which is, I think, very impressive and strange to see such a gap on PDS and actually super close here out on track.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see as Gabby Montoro just goes second in GTD with a 147.67. So that's 2 BMWs at the top and followed by 2 Lamborghinis. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, because as we saw last week at Interlagos, there was quite a large slipstream effect, especially in LMP2. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if those BMWs at the front can punch a big hole in the air for the Lamborghinis behind.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about the slipstream effect at Interlagos, but I think Monza's a whole new ball game of slipstream that is straights everywhere you look at Monza. So every single driver out there, I imagine none of them are teammates, but they are all going to want someone else's slipstream going down those straights to get the best possible lap. So yeah, definitely going to be a really close qualifying, I think, especially if people can work it out. Oh, seeing Patrick Werboy, seeing him spin there at Ascari, a common place to spin with the really big bumps. But yeah, just going back quickly, if the ones that get the slipstream will be
yeah, as there we see a replay of him spinning at the exit of the Ascari chicane.
Yeah.
Monza is a difficult circuit, as we've already mentioned, the amount of speed that you have, but you also need a stable car on the brakes, and through the fast chicanes, the Ascari chicane being the quickest of all of these chicanes throughout the circuit. So, yeah, it's certainly a balance, and Patrick getting it a little bit wrong there. Fortunately, that has meant that he hasn't set a time as yet. He might be able to get back out there, but hopefully things go better for him in the race.
Yeah.
See Ryan Norbert come out of the Ascari chicane, and I reckon he's got an off track there, unfortunately. I think I'm not sure he's got away with that, but he's carrying on, so maybe he's on lap 1 of 2, and he'll be able to put in a valid lap time.
Yeah. Well, it looks like Martin, not going to be able to put in a valid lap time, and since he's only got 10 seconds left of qualifying, that means that Ryan is going to be the only LMP2 car not to set a time in qualifying, meaning that he will be starting last in the LMP2 field. And as it looks like all the qualifying comes to a close and all the cars have set their laps, you could then take a look at the grid.
Indeed, you are correct there.
Right. The LMP2 field is as follows. So we've got Michelle. Bloody names. Michele Constantini taking up P1 with Ben Fuller taking up P2. That's the front row. P3 we've got Wes Van Dyke. I don't know how you pronounce that last name. Taking up P3 with Tom Voss taking up P4. Elliot Bundinsky taking up P5 with Rui taking up P6. Corentin taking P7 with Roberto taking P8. Anthony Cat taking P9 with Maxime Fedili taking P10. Julian taking P11 with Rayan taking P12.
Ryan. No worries.
I don't know.
And in GTLM we have the Ferrari of Dylan Scrivens, followed by the Ferrari of Diogo Salipa, followed by another Ferrari of Bastian Bonneberg. Our very own Lucas de Vries in 4th in class. He's a member of the ISRC Endurance Challenge. Dominic Blyer in 5th. We saw him last week doing all right. He was top 3 or 5, I think, on the end of the race. Michel Rack, Mateusz Lusak, and 7th. Daniel Cruz, Matteo Ugolotti, Dominik Kulakowski, Manuel Vascolaneso, and Luca Alpert bringing up the GTLM class in 12th.
And then looking a bit further down the field into the GTD category, we've got Sven Haase sitting on pole position, and this is the second time in 2 races that we've seen him sat on pole position. The Biella Team Euronics driver with pole position, followed closely behind by Malo Boulier in the BMW, and then we've got a string of BMWs after that of Felix Querenbach, Gabi Montoro, and Amri Bonduel leading out the top 5 in the GTD category. Then we've got Bob de Husbas in 6th place. Then we've got in P7 Lamar Schweizitz, Powell Kovalik, Jans Gottwald. Then we've got Vitor a bit further back in the GTD category. And then looking back outside of the top 10, we've got Patrick, Carl Robinson, and Lee R. Wilkins riding out the GTD category as the P2s look like they're about to take the start of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. They are lining up very nicely behind the Porsche safety car as they come round the Parabolica 2x2 formation. Let's hope we get away cleanly. So Michele Constantini is leading them away with Ben Fuller alongside him, an Italian alongside an American in Dallara chassis. Dallaras are an Italian make, and it looks like Michele's gone. Ben Fuller is falling into line behind him, then the slipstream already starting to take effect as the rest of the cars pile down to the first chicane at great speed. Let's see if we have any incidents here. Always a hot spot for it. Safely through the first few cars at least. But a 2x2 further back, stumbling over a couple of curbs, but no, that looks as clean as can be. Up, and we're side by side further up the field with through Curva Grande. That is Roberto Pabu and Corentin Coulet side by side, and nice. Oh, there's a big move there. Ooh, no, just showing the nose as they get away with that through the second chicane.
It's a very clean start.
Sorry,
It's a very clean start there for the LMP2 field, as we see a Ferrari going off in the background there. To me, that looked like
which one? There's
Michael
loads.
Rack going off. Michael Rack? No, it wasn't. No, that was Dominic Blyer going off there. Going through the Roger chicane. First spinner so far.
I think there might have
he's
been.
had contact. He's got a bent rear wing there. That's going to really hamper him. He might have to end up making an early pit stop, as we saw one of the P2 cars that made last week, to repair a bit of that damage and regain a bit more straight line speed.
See if we get a little bit of a replay of that.
So this is
the incident with Dominic.
Oh, he just got pushed.
Yeah, just like a little bit of a push there, so I didn't catch the car there that caught him.
Yeah, it looked like the 2 cars ahead of him were side by side through the chicane and were a bit slower than the pack behind. As we look at GTD, and Sven Haase is in his familiar position at the head of the GT field. Braking for Parabolica, round they go. Big BMW behind him, so that is Malo Belloy. Trying to take advantage of the slipstream. They're all line astern across the stripe for the end of the first lap.
I struggle to believe, as a fan of racing, as we see Boulier there going under the rear wing of Sven Haase, trying it round the outside into turn 1. Can he make the move stick? It's quite a tight corner, holding the nose there. No, he can't. Sven Haase keeps the chicane and he's still staying in first. But as I was saying, I struggle to think that those BMWs could fit in under the rear wing of the area of those Lamborghinis. It's such a big car, but it's just amazing seeing these cars on an equal pace, such different looking chassis.
Yeah, and I suppose that is what GTD does. It is a balance of performance category, so if you've got lots of drag as you're dragging around a shed, then you get lots of horsepower to go with it, as we see the cars absolutely smashing the curbs of the chicane in the background.
I think there might have been, going back to that start, there might have been a little bit of contact for one of the LMPs. Might have been one of the people at the back, but we saw, just going around the Curva Grande, one of the LMPs was lagging behind a little bit from the rest of the field. So I wonder whether we might have possibly just had a tiny bit of contact at the start there for the LMPs. But I
We definitely had contact.
Definitely
there.
had contact. Yeah.
Goes round of Corrins and Kulo. He was battling earlier on the first lap alongside another class member, so that's unfortunate for him. They were 3 wide going into the first chicane, so yeah, unfortunately one of them has fallen by the wayside.
Seeing a replay.
And there we are. We actually see the car at the outside. That's Ryan Norbert, the car that we saw starting last position in the P2 field. He's made his way up to 6th at the moment, and it looks like Corrington there just getting a tap from, to me, that looked like Roberto Barbu there also in the P2 field. But it's 45 minutes. Should be more than enough time for him to catch back up to the back and hopefully get a good result out of this.
I think he did a good recovery just then to not lose too much time, really. So experience coming into play, I think, as we see too many Ferraris to count, all going through Lesman 2. Going,
the way down to Ascari. It's interesting how this is almost a Ferrari challenge now. As you see, every week the cars change. Last week at Interlagos, we saw it was a very BMW strong field, as we see two Ferraris going side by side there through the chicane. Manuel managing to overtake Dominic. It looks like he might have a bit of a problem a bit further back. Maybe it might have just been a slowdown after a bad entry into the chicane. So we can't get any replays of that for the moment. But as I was saying, it's interesting how you have every week a different car comes into play, and I think that's the real strength of these drivers in iRacing, to be able to jump from one car to the next with very different handling capabilities and still be battling at the top of the game.
Just looking over now to look at the classes overall, we've got LMP2. LMP2 is only one car. It's the Le Mans Prototype 2. The scaled down version doesn't have hybrid version of the LMP1, and what usually I would say is the GTE category, because it's made up of the Corvettes, Ferraris, BMs, Porsches. Usually at most races you'd see a good variety of cars. Here it's Ferrari and Ferrari only. There is not a single other class, other make of car. It is only Ferraris taking up the GTE field. So you may as well call it the LMP2 class, the Ferrari class, and then the GTDs. It's a rare sight seeing only one make taking up a class.
Yeah, it is, as we ride on board here with Bastian Bonneberg looking back towards Lucas de Vries as his Ferrari closes in. This is a fantastic camera shot. Our camera crew's done incredibly well to get this here. Hopefully not affecting the aerodynamics of the car too much. Looks like Lucas has missed the apex there of the parabolica, but he'll be hoping to get the power down as soon as he can and tuck back in the slipstream and see what he can do down the straight, although we might be under pressure from Michael Rack behind him. See if he pops out from the slipstream. You can just see the red car there on the left. Yeah, is he close enough to have a look into the first chicane? I don't think so. Paul Constantina's up there. Get through clean. Oh no, looks like Michael's got a slowdown that he had to serve, so that's unfortunate for him. But he'll just pop back into the slipstream and be right back on the tail of Bastian in a couple of laps. Lucas in a couple of laps. He's only lost one place.
Really unfortunate there for Michael. I know from experience that it's so easy to get an off track there going through the first part of the chicane. The right-hander is you could just take a little bit too much curb and all of a sudden you're hit with a 1 second slowdown. I'm sure he feels cheated by that, but this class is so close that he'll drop back and he'll be back up on the back of the pack within a matter of laps. And so at the end of the day, I don't think he's lost too much time there. He's been quite lucky.
Yeah, exactly. They still have the pit stops to go. All cars will be looking at getting. They'll only have to do one pit stop. It'll be the battle of who risks taking the least amount of fuel, so they're not in that pit lane for too long. So plenty of positions to be made, or plenty of time to be gained in the pit stop that they'll all have to take. So yeah, everything's still on the cards.
Yeah, so as we saw last week at Interlagos, the LMP2 field will lap the GTLM field once, and they'll lap the GTD field 3 times. So that seems to be the standard order of the go. So I might expect some of the LMP2s to dive into the pit lane as soon as they start to hit the back of the GTLMs and try and reduce that time loss, so you only have to pass them once in reality rather than twice on track. So yeah, we'll see how we go.
Yeah, exactly. As we see Tom Voss here, he'll be wanting to catch the LMP in front of him. He'll be wanting to catch him, but he's also got to be really careful of Bunzinski behind him in that slipstream, forever gaining speed, gaining time on Tom. So Tom will be wanting to get into the slipstream of the car ahead as soon as possible, really.
Yeah, it's quite a nice sight here. We've currently got Vesdijk in 3rd and Tom Voss just getting overtaken there in 5th. Both runners in ISRC, as Tom Voss tries to make the over-under work. He can't, so that's Elliott up into 4th place. As they now come through Curva Grande. It's a corner, but then again, it's flat out and the drivers can slipstream through here, as we're seeing Tom Voss do. Is he going to try and make a move into the chicane? Is he going to pull out last second? No, he decides not to. Staying behind for the meantime. So now he's under pressure from Ryan behind, who we've seen make up 6 positions off the start, as he didn't set a time in qualifying. Now, Martin, I'm not sure how long these cars go on fuel. You've probably got this noted somewhere, or know better than I do how long we're going to be looking here on fuel, but is there any chance for Ryan here to perhaps make a bit of an over-under work, pitting in early, try and save some time, or is that not a viable strategy?
I absolutely think it's a viable strategy with the long straights here. You can save a bit of fuel going into the chicanes. I'm expecting approximately 28 minute fuel stint, so that'll be about 17, maybe 18 laps if you saved a bit of fuel, as Tom Voss is being pushed along by... Tom Voss is pushing along Ryan Norbert up towards the Parabolica as they come across some of the GTD traffic. They should be able to weave their way throughout that as it is scattered across the circuit down the front straight here. That is, interesting to say the least, but now they're all staying over to the left-hand side as they've realised the 2 faster P2s are coming past down the inside.
Bit of a vicious move there.
Get him on that side. Yeah, he had to give it a go though, otherwise he was going to lose too much time to Norbert ahead of him. It has therefore given Milo a bad exit from the first chicane, giving Kavalik a run on him round curve.
Just to correct you, that was Marlowe making the overtake in the Lamborghini. Sorry, correction, that there. It's Marlowe off. So no, you are right, that is Marlowe.
That's not a particularly good rejoin, as we see a P2 ahead dive down the inside of a GT2. They made it through fine. So Marlowe's now serving a slowdown penalty for cutting the chicane at quite some speed. He's trying to reduce his time loss, but not the greatest move there.
Here's something coming in from Luca, just tapping the grass, snagging half wheel on the entry into the chicane onto the grass and just losing the rear end. He's only lost 1 position there to Dominic Blyer, who we saw have an accident earlier in the race at that very chicane. So that's put Luca down into last place, but again, this field is so closely, I'm sure we'll see Luca making his way back up soon enough.
Yeah, those pesky GTDs must be getting in the way quite a bit. Looks nice. That looks potentially interesting as we watch Michael Rack and the rest of his Ferrari GT Challenge friends smash the curbs at the second chicane. Nicely rounded there at the Lesmo 1. Looks like we've got a battle now. Janus Gottwald and Bob de Wisbus into the first chicane. Bright yellow Lamborghinis. A good colour for a Lamborghini in the field.
I think it's a very Italian car, Ferrari and Lamborghini. It's a very flamboyant, I would say, stereotypically, and the colour as well, I think, suits the Lamborghini in particular so well. Stands out, very eye-catching. And I think it suits it brilliantly, like you say.
It's amazing to see how, looking at the track map on the screen for everyone, we've got, I'd say, probably a third, 2/3 of the field, all within 2 or 3 corners of each other around the entire track. So at the moment it's definitely a battle for all cars involved to make sure that the lapping cars get through as clean as possible. Just see all the GTEs or Ferraris going through the first chicane.
Little flash of the lights there from Matteo Ugoli. He's going to try it around the outside of Michael Raff, Curva Grande. Doesn't quite have the slipstream as he ducks in, pulls out again, heading down towards the second chicane. Can he unbrake him side by side going into the braking zone? Up the inside, and he's pulled a move off their textbook. Ooh, as he takes a fair amount of the curve there. Now, is he going to have a compromised run? It doesn't look like it, and that there, with the exception of the yeetage of the chicane, I must say, yeetage of the curve there at the second part, that's a fairly textbook overtake on the books.
Yeah, and a very technical description of how to attack a chicane as well there, Isaac. Yeah, so Mick Allaby hoping to get a good exit through the Ascari chicane and down towards the Parabolica, see if he can make that pace back. So using a lot of that sausage curb, not managing to keep it on the track and not using the grasses, unlike a car in the background. And he's right back in there. So this is a close battle. We have Lucas de Vries in the black car up the front for Team DRC, I believe. Bastian Bonneberg in the purple car in the middle, followed by Matthias Lutzak in the back of the shot with the black and green car there. They are absolutely tied together. Less than only 0.6 of a second separating those three as they round Curva Grande. Doesn't look like there's any way through there, no chinks in the armour just yet, just a lot of yeetage of that curve.
He's never going to live that down now.
So, reaching deep down into my book of descriptives, and that was what came to the top first, and I think we'll stick with that. Now, so actually, here we've got quite a close battle in the P2 field. So looking on board with Roy Cueros, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, with Roberto Barbo just 4 tenths up the road. Last time round, Cueros, ooh, Roberto having enough there, just getting slightly onto the gravel.
Yeah, I was about to say he's going to get an off track for touching the gravel and using that much curb, but he did a lot worse than that, unfortunately. He's looped it round and nosed it into the barrier. Hopefully he doesn't have too much damage on an aero-dependent circuit. Can't see much here, but I'm assuming there's got to be something there.
Here, so this here was the car that just had a crash, Roberto. Very surprised that he ran that far. I think you've got to do well to get that far out off of track, but he managed to do it, and hopefully, as you were saying, Martin, the aero's still intact and he'll be able to keep up with the back of the pack, although it's 6 seconds now to Anthony Catt, the next car for position in the P2 field. Hopefully in the pit stops you should be able to make up a bit of time lost.
I'm surprised he's even got a front end on that car.
It was a fairly hefty shunt there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know from personal experience, it never feels good if you've done exactly what Roberto's done there, unfortunately. Yes, I think I did it quite a few times whilst practicing for ISRC's endurance round at Monza earlier or late last year. As Mikko Rack is not happy with that P2, getting dived at the second Lesmo, giving the good old flash of the lights to let them know that it's discussed.
Yeah, that's there's Michel Constantini, who are on board with at the moment. He's the leader in the P2 field. He's got a 2.4 second gap to the next car, which, considering we've only done 12 laps in this race, is fairly substantial. And the gap's only going to grow now as he's making his way through the traffic. And from the start so far, it looks like it's a fairly dominant race.
It's brave to be going around the outside.
Yeah, I had a sharp intake of breath there. I was wondering which way he's going to go. But he managed to thread the eye of the needle, and very well done to him. I mean, if that's how the traffic's falling to him and he's managing to deal with it better than anybody else, then he deserves that 2.1 second gap across the line. So good on him. Yeah, so he's 2.1 seconds behind lead, and then third place is he's got a 7 or 8 second lead over them. So he's doing very well.
Very good traffic management, that's for sure.
See, it's interesting, I find, just looking at him there going through that chicane, how much curb you can take there. And because I thought he'd be ripping the floor of that car off. And well, Martin, you drive a lot more P2 than I do. Is this car substantial to floor damage? Because I've driven a lot of P1s in the past, and I know that you can look at a curb a bit funny in an LMP1 car, and all of a sudden your 10k slower in a straight line. Is the P2 similar to that? Is it as touchy over curbs?
I don't think it's as sensitive. You just got to be careful on the landing. But any of these sausage curves, if you belly the car, if you do manage to get both wheel tracks either side of a curb, then you can pretty much say goodnight to your engine in an instant. So they do have some sensitivity, but yeah, it doesn't sound as bad as your LMP1 car.
Now, well, let's hope that the rest of the P2 field can keep their cars clean. As you see Roberto exiting the pit lane, we saw Roberto having a crash not too long ago. Now, maybe this is a play of tactics for him pitting in early, avoiding a bit of the traffic, as he looks like he was stationary there for 20 seconds, which to me indicates that he was just taking fuel. So this might be interesting to see if he's going to be able to do the undercut here on some of the cars up ahead.
Yeah, looking at the timing screen, it looks like Dominic Blyer did come in for some remedial repairs after his accident, so as well. So he put down that 9 with an 11-second stop. So that might actually just be in fuel, to be honest. It'd be interesting to see if he thinks he can make it to the end or has to do a lot of fuel saving. So this is a good battle on track here. We have Victor Smolarczyk following, trying to catch Malo Bolet. We know that Bolet has dropped 7 places from the start of the race, so he'll be wanting to drive away from Victor behind him. Victor's actually in his starting position, so he's done a solid job there, whilst all of those around him have had some interesting times.
Yeah, and it's interesting now that you mention Malo dropping down 7 positions off the start, because on the grid we had the top 5 contained 4 BMWs. Now when we're looking inside the top 8, we've only got 2. So that makes me think that perhaps that's where we're seeing this difference in pace, is that these BMWs are really good over qualifying, but as soon as they get into the race pace, they're just not able to keep up with the Lamborghinis. Although saying that, we've got Gabri Montoro here, who's only 4/10 behind Sven Haas, but then again, he's the only BMW, with the exception of Omri Bondu, who's anywhere near the front of the race.
Yeah, maybe it's a bit of a Marmite car. You love it or hate it around here. My assumption is that you're either on top of it and you can drive it at 10/10 the whole time to keep up with those Lamborghinis, or maybe the Lamborghini is a bit of an easier car to drive around here. a bit less twitchy perhaps, coming out of the corners and sliding less through the chicanes. So yeah, it's certainly interesting to see how that balances out. But Gabby Montoro could just be saving some fuel sat there. Sven Haas could be towing him along a little bit, so maybe there's a strat play going on there.
Yeah, sat in the area of one of these cars, you're able to lift and coast and save monumental amounts of fuel. So that could be a plausible strategy, sitting behind the leader here, Sven Haas, just trying to save fuel. Well, then again, I don't doubt that these guys are pushing as hard as we can. Sven actually, last lap, only 300s faster. So yeah, it is plausible actually. Yeah, we could just be sat there saving fuel.
Yeah, as I look at the time on screen, it looks like we've had a couple more pit callers in P2. So that's 14 laps. I'm expecting a few more laps yet. So lap 17 or 18, I think we'll get the P2 runners coming in. As we now look at Maxime Fideli, he is one of those pit callers, stopped for just under 18 seconds. So yeah, I expect that to just be fuel.
Still seeing some personal best lap times coming in, so I guess as these fuel tanks are lowering these personal times, they've still got the tyres underneath them to be setting some personal best sector times and even improving on already best laps.
Yeah, it looked like Fideli had a little bit of trouble coming out of Ascari, putting down the power. The traction control is tunable in these cars, so you have two variables that you can control. So the first one is how much slip does the traction control kick in, and then the second variable is how hard that kicks in. So you can fine-tune them all within the car to decide as what you want to do and set them up personal preference, driver to driver, for the endurance races. So we see Julian Forte go down the inside of Dominic Blauer, unfortunately still with that bent rear wing. That really cannot be helping him, as he is quite a way off the pack now. He's about 30 seconds off his next in class, although he has made a pit stop. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, see whether he can regain some of the 7 spots that he's lost so far this race.
I think when they really don't want damage, especially when it comes to the downforce, because they're running as little as they possibly can already with the really long straights, so any disruptions to that is really going to affect them, I think, and that's the one thing they would have probably wanted to avoid going into this race, but sometimes it can't be helped, and you have to put up with it, shall we say.
Yep, nothing they can do about it now. He's done all the repairs that he can do, and he's back out on track. Dominic Blyer trying to make his way forward. It's a 33-second gap up to the car ahead, although he is the only car in the GTE field to have pitted at the moment. So it's possible that we could see the Triton Racing driver make his way back up into the top 10 in class. He's just got to keep on pumping out these solid lap times here.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. It looks like second, third and fourth in... Sorry, looking at my timing screen, it looks like second, third and fourth in GTE are still very, very close to each other. A couple of seconds between all of them. Well, that's a fantastic shot through the Ascari chicane, right on the splitter, running out wide and down towards the Parabolica, putting all of those Ferrari horses to the ground. Probably with Pirelli tyres, I'd imagine.
Looking over to my timing screen, it looks like after this lap, all of the GTD cars will have pitted for their fuel stop.
Yeah, so Sven Haas is currently in the pit lane. As we
and that's...
look at him side by side with Gabriel Montoro out of the pit. So he's managed to save fuel, and he's under-fueled him in the pit stop. That's a fantastic piece of work. Now, can he hold on to it as he's shed powers him down down the straights and provides a massive hole in the air for the Lamborghini as Sven's behind him.
Oh, is he making contact there with the Williams Esports gym car, pushing him a little bit off wide, meaning that Sven Haas was then able to get back past again. It'll be interesting now. Will Gabby be able to slip through and pass as we see more Ferrari GTEs making their way past the GTD field? That was a shame there that we saw that contact, but this is multi-class racing. There's only a finite amount of space on track, and you've got to fit 37 cars into that space, and yeah, not everyone's going to make it through happily.
Yeah, exactly. Looking now, just going on fuel stops, I believe the only cars that are left to pit now are Ferraris. I think everyone apart from the Ferraris in the GTE class now are yet.
Yeah, and it looks like the leader of P2 has just come into the pit lane. So he's leader on the pit stop. So Rui Fernando Queiroz has managed to do an extra lap, which is very good going from him. And it's unfortunate. It was unfortunate to see the GTD lead swap back as a result of contact at the first chicane, but that's how it is, even after his great strategy play. But that's all right, as we see a couple of Ferrari Challenge cars go into the pits in the background.
Interestingly enough here, we've seen the leader in GTD stay out, which not what I was expecting. I'd be expecting a lot of these the GTE, further back in the field to be saving fields there, therefore they'll be able to go a bit longer than the cars running up front. But I mean, Diogo's running now with the 5-second lead over the next car, so perhaps he's just got such a big buffer that he doesn't need to pit in. But then again, I'm surprised to not see him in the pits along with the other cars.
Yeah, and through the pit stop cycle, looks like Michele Constantini has a 1.7 second lead now, so he's lost about a second, maybe a little bit under, since we last checked in with him. But as you can see, there is Ben Fuller behind him in the back of the shot, so see whether Ben can get a run on the Ferrari out of the Ascari chicane and not be impeded at all. Yeah, nicely done there. Well timed. And that, I believe, is the leader of GTE they've just passed, Diogo Salipa. So I reckon he might be coming into the pits this lap.
It is a possibility. We saw a lot of the other. It's only the top 4 GTEs who haven't pitted in, as we're going to see him peel off to the right-hand side. Yep, braking down and putting the pit speed limiter on as he makes his way to his pit stall now. As you see the other 2nd, 3rd and 4th respectively. Now we might see those cars a bit further back, dropping a bit further down the order, as that's from the pit stop shuffle. But it'll be interesting to see where these cars come out for position. It's after the pistol leader Dylan in the Maniti Racing colours, making his way through. Actually, it looks like he is going to take the lead back off of Diogo. Possibly. See Diogo making his way up the pits. It's going to be close. Very close. Is it going to be racing down into turn 1? Is Dylan going to make it past? Yes, he is. So correction there, sorry. Dylan, the leader in the GTD category. Oh, Diogo just outbraking himself, having to straight line the chicane. So he rejoins just after, and that's not going to be helpful for him in his attempts to catch Dylan, but all in the favour of Dylan there as he extends his leads out to 1.2 seconds now.
Yeah, so Dylan Squiggins of Maniti Racing is doing a very good job there. Only 7.4k. Oh no, we've had a coming together of the yellow Lamborghinis at the Variante de la Rogia. And Bob de Hoosbos gets back on track as we look at a replay of this now. So Hoosbos is ahead, and he just gets more than a slight tap in the braking zone from the number 32 Janis Gottwald. Unfortunately, Janis is at fault there, but gets away with it, as is sometimes the case in iRacing officials.
So as we see Dylan, Bob here pushing, trying to make his way past Patrick on the way down to Ascari. Can he make anything work? No, he can't.
think these
That
guys
is-
must have been watching NASCAR at Daytona. Oh, as car pulls off to the left there.
No, it's Patrick. I don't know what he was doing there. It's interesting to see.
He wouldn't have had a slow down from the Lesmos that he had to clear, perhaps?
I don't know. I'd be surprised if he carries a
Oh,
slow.
no, and he's just caused an
no.
accident with an LMP2 car there.
Which LMP2 car is that? That looks like Roberto Barbu. Now, I saw Roberto having accidents earlier on at Lesmo 1 earlier in the race. Now, that is a shame. We saw Roberto was on a comeback drive. It looks like that's been put to a stop as he's now in the pit lane. And that is a shame.
Yeah, I think that's...
Yeah, I don't think he was quite aware that there were two other cars behind him, or he might have seen one of them, but he hadn't seen the other. And that is the challenge of multi-class racing, as we see two Ferraris side by side. The outside Williams Esports car trying to box the other car against the BMW, but didn't quite work. There's just a space there, looking to outbrake him down the inside. Ooh, that's very close to my. That's heavy on the brakes there. Just about got away with it, and that's why these guys are in top split, and I'm not.
I don't think any of us are.
Well, it's not new, these guys racing one another. We've got the Williams Esports gym team, which is the junior academy team of Williams Esports, the gym cars which run the yellow front ends. And the other car, if I'm not mistaken, is currently driven by Dominik Kulowski, is an RSR Esports car. Now, these cars run in a lot of leagues outside of the official races, so it's very likely that these two won't be their first coming together. Yeah, so maybe a bit of rivalry there. Bit of cold blood between these two drivers.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Cruz is going to have, after that heavy braking maneuver and probably a bit of avoidance there in the end into the De La Roggia chicane, he's going to probably spend another next couple of laps getting back up to speed and back onto the back of Kulowski.
Just looking over
Michel
to...
Rapp is in action again. Bastian Bonneberg and Vascon Cello's behind him.
Just on the topic of Bastian Bonneberg, just looking over, he's actually got 11 off-tracks already this race, so in the last 10 minutes he's going to want to be really careful not to get really any more, otherwise he's really putting himself at risk of getting a penalty. I think that's the last thing you want.
Yeah, I have to correct me now, because earlier, it had been about this time last year, iRacing implemented their penalty system, whereas before that, drivers would get a certain amount of instant points, usually 17, and then would be disqualified from the race. Now they've added a system where you get 17 instant points and then receive a penalty. I know that you can get disqualifications on top of that. It slips my mind. Is it still possible for a driver to get disqualified in one of these official races, or do they just keep on getting penalties and penalties after one another?
No, absolutely, it is possible. So 17 incident points is a drive-through, and then at 25, oh dear, as we see that purple Ferrari just about get it
saved.
back on track. Bastian Bonneberg having a wild ride out of the Ascari chicane and being now under pressure from her GTD car behind him.
It looks like we were just saying earlier in the race that, yes, he took a little bit too much of that sausage curve that was saying, so he's actually really lucky and will hold for him to be still going after that, because that was... Oh, I don't know about that, but he might need a change of underwear after he finishes this race, because that looked scary.
Yeah, you risk so much. Ascari is one of those corners you need to be on power as soon as you possibly can, but those curves are so lethal. Just taking them wrong slightly, I'd say the Bastian there got very, very lucky, because any more curb and he could have been face first into the barrier there, which is not what we want to see.
No, absolutely not. So this is the lead battle in GTE. Dylan Scriven and Diego Salipa. Now we saw in the pit stops, Dylan and Diego came out very close to another. Diego went straight on at the first chicane, but it looks like he's closed the gap up now. It was 1.6 seconds coming out of the pits, but it's now only half a second. So it could be down to traffic or down to pace. So I'd see last time by Diego was 1.5 tenths, faster last time by. So it'll be interesting to see as they come across the line again. Yeah, we had Diego there 2 tenths faster. It looks like coming into the closing stages of the race, Louis, that we might have a good race on our hands. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that coming towards the end of the race, everything's to play for, really, between not just these two, but a lot of the drivers. Gaps are really close, and they're going to want the positions where they can. They're going to want that all-important iRacing. And I think towards this last 5 minutes of the race that we're coming to is where we're going to start to see the more risky of moves coming out. There'll be a lot less room left, and it's going to get a bit. It's going to get a bit close, but as long as everyone keeps it clean and safe, I'm sure. Hopefully, everyone will make it to the end. Fucking commentator's curse.
We see that was one of the P2s making it through round Curva Grande and just slightly outbraking himself as we see this battle now for 9th place. So that there, as we see side by side, Daniel Kruz and Dominic Kulowski. Can Daniel hold there? He's down the inside, but they're still running too wide, running down into Ascari. You see P2's coming up behind us. You're going to be able to make it 3 wide. Oh, gosh, it is just about. And they're coming down to the Battle of the Lake breakers. And it looks like Kowalski's just able to pull it off. Can Daniel then get the over-under coming out of the chicane? As we just see Dominic Blyer in the background there catching up. So this is now turning into a 3-way battle for 9th place. This is incredibly close now. See Daniel pulling out to the left, trying round the outside. Is he... No, you can't be doing that. You can't. There's a little bit of touching coming together there. And in the background, you see Dominic Bayer looking up the inside, going to make it 3 wide with just 4 minutes to go left in the race for this 9th place. Daniel making it around the outside through Parabolica. And Dominic Bayer.
Are we going to go 3 wide now?
Oh my gosh.
This is what I mean about the last 5 minutes, everything, a lot of risky moves. This is exactly what we mean. But
yeah,
luckily,
absolutely. So I'm looking at my timing screen here, and the gap is stationary at half a second currently between the leaders and between Dylan and Diego in GTE. But all eyes are here for the battle in 9th place. As we see a lot of curb being taken there by Dominic in the background. Now he's fighting for everything here. We see he's got a bent wing after contact at the start of the race at that chicane, meaning that he hit the wall, and then an early pit stop, trying to do the undercut to make it into the top 10. And it looks like for the moment, if he can get past Dominic Kowalski, he will have made it into the top 10. So just making their way past lap GTD cars.
Yeah, that was some fantastic action last lap for the class of Ferraris. Even though they are battling for 9th, 10th and 11th place, it doesn't mean anything less to them. Might as well be a spot on the podium. And I'm very pleased to see Dominic Blyer managing to have a bit of a scrap there, even with the bent wing. That was fantastic. So we see 3 wide again, P2 through the middle, in the eye of the needle, and then around the outside of Ben Haase. Wow, that is good. That is very good racing. So now we have the RSI esports car of Dominic Kulowski coming across Sven Haase, trying to thread the eye of the needle of the 2 GTDs. I think he's going to have the position or have the lap car there. Daniel Kruz accelerates out of the Rectifico chicane, nice and safe. He's looking a lot more safe this lap than he was the previous, that's for sure.
Absolutely, the traffic is completely coming into his hands here in this last lap as Dominic Kowalski and Dominic Blyer have been held up in traffic. It looks like Daniel's just been able to pull away a little bit here. And even then, just going down that one straight, I don't know if my eyes are deceiving me here, but the RSR car looks to be closing up slightly. But, I mean, I think this is going to be coming down to last lap battle here, to be honest with you. This is some real tight stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, there's a second between all of those cars now, so they might struggle to get back in the slipstream. Someone's going to have to make a mistake to see them all compress back up. But we'll switch back to that if it comes with some action.
But there's not a second gap at the moment between Maxime Fideli and Julian Forte, which is for 9th place in LMP2. Now, this is overall. We see the Red Bull liveried car in the lead, driven by Maxime Fideli. And Julian Forte just trying to get in the slipstream down the run down to Ascari, closing up under the brakes. And is this GTD going to cause any problems for them? No, it's not.
Yeah, it's interesting how this gap has come down so much this lap, because last lap, Fideli in the Red Bull car was about half a second that lap quicker than Julian Forte, so must have made a mistake on this lap perhaps, and therefore allowed Forte to close back up. Forte looking for that slipstream, chopping the nose of that BMW off a little bit, and tucking back in behind Fideli there.
Yeah, see, where's Van Dijk trying it up the inside almost of Fernando Queiroz to no prevail, as we're now on the last lap of the race.
Yeah, it looks like Rui Queiroz is trying everything there. They'll get down the inside of this GTD. Queiroz entry compromised into the second Lesmo, therefore also compromising his apex speed and therefore his exit speed down towards the Ascari chicane. He's fallen back to half a second now, and if this is the last lap, then it's going to be a long order to get back that position of 4th place from there. We'll be waiting on a mistake from Van Dijk. And it doesn't look like he's going to make it at the moment.
No, it doesn't. Handling the pressure very well there. The leaders finally come across the line. Just take the win. It's coming to the final corner now. Parabolic and making it 3 wide. Oh!
It's going to be close. He's made it.
The traffic making it 3 wide, being able to sneak up the inside there to take P5. That is incredible. Was that? No, did he?
That was P4.
That was
P4, and Wes Van Dijk with a beautiful slide after crossing the line. So I believe
it's a bit further back. And now I've just noticed, looking at the timing screens, actually, that although leading for the best part of the race, Michele Costanini didn't come out on first. I'm trying to see if we can see if I've got anything here in my replay spiel. If anything that gives way to why that happened, because we were so focused on the GTE racing in the middle of the race, that might have been something that we overlooked.
I wonder if... Yeah, there we go. There's the Manatee of Dylan Scrivens is just going through the... There's 1, 2 and 3 in GTE going through the Ascari chicane as they're coming up to the Parabolica. I was just looking at my time screen. I wasn't sure if they'd finished or not, but it appears that they haven't, managing to get an extra lap over the GTLM field. As Scrivens comes across the line to take a victory in IMSA Sports Car Championship. A top split. Well done him. Another accolade for Manatee.
Absolutely, very well driven by him. We obviously saw that little bit of a changeover in the pit stops between him and Diogo. But it looks like nothing prevailed there of Diogo going through at the chicane. And, yeah, Dylan able to keep his head cool and make it all the way to the end for the victory. Very impressive driving.
Yeah, absolutely. As we move on to the results. So, your LMP2 class, Ben Fuller takes up P1. Fantastic race from him. We got, as we were saying, Michele Constantini taking P2. Elliot Budzinski taking P3. That's your podium. Very well racing from them. Then you got Rui Krios taking P4 with Wes van Dijk taking P5. Tom Voss from the ISRC Championship taking P6. Ryan Norbert taking P7. Corentin Coulet taking P8 with Maxime Fideli taking P9. Julian Forte taking P10. That's the top 10 with Anthony Catt taking P11. Very well done from all the LMP2 drivers.
And in GTLM, we saw Dylan Scrivens, of Manatee Racing crossing the line ahead of Diogo Salipa. Mateus Lusak in rounding out the top 3, all managing to get an extra lap over the GTLM field. We saw there, and in 4th place we had our very own Team DRC ISRC competitor of Lucas de Vries, Matteo Ugolotti in 6th position. Mikael Rack in the bright red Ferrari he's in 6th, my fault. Bastian Bonneberg losing 4 positions in class to finish 7th. Manuel Vasconcelos in 8th. Daniel Cruz in 9th. Dominic Kulasowski in 10th after a fantastic battle with Cruz. And Dominic Blyer round in 11th with the unfortunate bent wing from an early incident. Luca Alpert and closing out the GTLM field there.
And looking a bit further down into the GTD category, we had the Biella Team Euronics driver of Sven Haas getting pole position and leading it all the way to the end of the race there, taking the victory, followed in 2nd place by Gabi Montoro, making up 2 positions off the start. That's your top 2, and the final step of the podium was taken by Omri Bundul. That's your podium, and then further back down the field in 4th place, you've got Jan Gottwald, Lubmo Mir Schweisitz got there eventually. Bob van Hoosbas, Malo Boulier, Powell Kovaclik, Carl Robinson, and Leah Wilkins in your top 10. And then outside the top 10, we only had one more finisher, which was Vilkor. Sorry for not pronouncing your last name. And after that, we had 3 non-finishers. We had Roberto Barbu after his coming together with the Lamborghini we saw earlier on in the race and his unfortunate accident. Patrick Verboe was the Lamborghini in question there, causing the early retirement of Roberto, and Felix Kernbach retiring on lap 3. Unfortunately, we didn't get anything seen on that incident there.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic racing from everyone there. It was really good racing, I think. Very clean. Only a few minor-ish incidents. So I really enjoyed it. I hope everyone in the stream did. Hope you all enjoyed it too. And I think for now we will wait till next week, round 10, I believe. I think we are visiting, if my calendar is correct, we visit Road America. So going to be close.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to next week at Road America. That should be a fantastic race, a brilliant circuit.
Yeah, especially for multi-class. So, in the meantime, I hope everyone stays healthy and well. I hope you all enjoy your week and weekend. And from all of us here, I'd like to say thank you and goodbye.